There are moments in history when the discarded become divine, when the rejected rise to save those who cast them aside. This is the story of such a moment, and the warriors who refused to let their legacy die in silence. Captain Rebecca Torres stood in the viewing gallery of Orbital Station 7, her fingers pressed against the cold, transparent aluminum, separating her from the void. Outside, bathed in the pale light of distant stars, floated the RSS Valkyrie, a vessel that had once been the pride of humanity's deep space fleet. Now, after 40 years of faithful service, the ship was scheduled for demolition. Her nuclear fusion reactors were considered relics, her weapons outdated, her armor plating primitive compared to the sleek, quantum-shielded cruisers now patrolling Earth's territories. Rebecca's reflection stared back at her, a woman in her late 50s with silver streaks in her dark hair. Her uniform bore the marks of 3 decades in service, the fabric worn smooth at the elbows. She had commanded the Valkyrie for 15 years, and tomorrow she would watch as cutting crews began tearing her ship apart piece by piece, selling the materials to fuel manufacturers who cared nothing for the blood and sacrifice that had sanctified every deck plate. Behind her, a door opened with a soft hiss. Rebecca didn't need to turn. She recognized the footsteps of Lieutenant Commander Oscar Briggs, her executive officer and oldest friend. Oscar had served with her since their academy days, always insisting that reliable technology beat flashy innovation every single time. "They're moving up the schedule," Oscar said quietly, coming to stand beside her. His reflection showed a stocky man with a weathered face and kind eyes that had seen too much combat. "Fleet operations wants the dry dock cleared by week's end. 5 new Phantom-class destroyers are coming out of construction, and they need the space." Rebecca felt something tighten in her chest. 5 ships to replace one. They must think we're worth something after all. Those 5 ships cost more to maintain in a month than the Valkyrie did in a year, Oscar replied. But nobody cares about that anymore. It's all about speed and firepower now. Efficiency is a dirty word. They stood in silence for a moment, watching the Valkyrie rotate slowly. The ship was massive by old standards, nearly 800 meters from bow, to stern her hull still bearing scorch marks from the Kepler 7 conflict, where she had held off a pirate armada for 3 days until reinforcements arrived. No modern ship could have survived that punishment. The quantum shields on newer vessels were powerful but fragile, prone to cascading failures under sustained fire. The Valkyrie's simple ablative armor and redundant systems had kept her crew alive through situations that would have destroyed any contemporary ship. "Captain Torres, Commander Briggs, please report to Central Command immediately." The announcement echoed through the gallery, carrying an urgency that made both officers stiffen. They exchanged glances and moved quickly toward the transit tubes. The ride took less than 3 minutes, but Rebecca's mind raced through possibilities. Emergency announcements were rare, especially ones that interrupted decommissioning. Central Command was chaos. Officers clustered around holographic displays, their voices overlapping as they tried to make sense of incoming data. Admiral Vincent Carver stood at the center of the room, his hands gripping the edge of the central console, staring at the main display screen with an expression Rebecca had never seen on his face before. Fear. "Captain Torres, thank God." Carver turned as they entered. "We have a situation, and your ship might be the only thing that can help us." Rebecca stepped closer to the display, Oscar at her shoulder. What she saw made her blood run cold. The screen showed deep space sensor readings from the outer rim of the solar system, displaying dozens of massive contacts moving toward the inner planets at incredible speed. The computer had tagged them as unknown vessels, but their formation and trajectory left no doubt. This was an invasion fleet. "First contact?" Oscar breathed. "How long until they reach Earth?" 72 hours at current velocity, replied Commander Esther Park, the station's senior tactical officer. "But that's not the worst part. Look at how our scanners are reading them. Rebecca leaned in, studying the flickering, distorted sensor data. Your equipment is malfunctioning? That's what we thought at first, Esther said. But it's not a malfunction. These ships, whatever they are, they're somehow overwhelming our scanning systems. The quantum sensors on our Phantom-class destroyers can't get a stable lock. Every time we try to focus on them, the readings cascade into noise. It's like they're deliberately designed to defeat our most advanced technology. What about communications? Rebecca asked. Have they responded to any hails? Carver shook his head grimly. We've tried every frequency. 6 hours ago, we finally got a response. You need to hear this. He nodded to Esther, who brought up an audio file. The speakers crackled before a voice emerged, cold and mechanical, speaking perfect English. Primitive species. You have been evaluated and found wanting. Your technology is infantile, your resistance meaningless. We are the Convergence, and we do not negotiate with obsolete forms of life. Your extinction will be efficient and complete. Prepare for integration or annihilation. The recording ended, leaving a heavy silence in the command center. Rebecca felt her hands curl into fists. Obsolete. Primitive. The same words the fleet admirals had used to justify scrapping the Valkyrie. Our Phantom destroyers can't target them effectively, Carver continued. The quantum targeting systems are too sophisticated. They're designed to track ships using antimatter signatures and dimensional wake patterns. These alien vessels don't register on those spectrums. It's like trying to see an ant with a telescope designed to study distant galaxies. But older sensors, Oscar said slowly, understanding dawning on his face. Broad-spectrum electromagnetic scanning, basic thermal imaging. The kind of systems the Valkyrie uses, because we never got the budget for upgrades. Carver nodded. 2 hours ago, we ran an experiment. We activated the Valkyrie's sensor array remotely, and it locked onto the alien fleet immediately. Clear, stable readings. No interference. Your obsolete technology is immune to whatever is jamming our advanced systems. Rebecca's mind was already racing ahead. How many crew can you give me? I've already issued the recall, Carver said. Every officer who ever served on the Valkyrie and is currently stationed within reach, plus volunteers from other ships. You'll have a full complement within 8 hours. And authorization to engage? The Admiral's face was grave. Captain Torres, the Valkyrie is hereby reactivated and designated as flagship of Earth as Defense Fleet until this crisis is resolved. You have full tactical authority. Those fancy Phantom destroyers will follow your targeting data because they can't get their own. You're not just authorized to engage, Rebecca. You're our only real chance. Rebecca straightened, feeling the weight of command settle across her shoulders once more. Behind her, Oscar was already pulling up the Valkyrie's system status reports. The ship was in standby mode, her reactor idling, her systems dormant but maintained. They could have her fully operational in hours. Then we'd better get to work, Rebecca said. Oscar, start the reactor activation sequence. I want main power online in 6 hours. Esther, I need full tactical briefings on those alien ships. Everything we know and everything we're guessing. Admiral, please inform Earth Command that the Valkyrie is returning to active duty. As the command center erupted into purposeful activity, Rebecca allowed herself one last look at the main display screen. The alien fleet continued its inexorable advance, confident in their technological superiority. They had called humanity obsolete, primitive, unworthy of existence. They were about to learn a very hard lesson. Sometimes the old ways survived because they worked. Sometimes the weapons everyone else discarded were exactly what you needed when nothing else could do the job. The Convergence thought they were facing an easy conquest of an inferior species. They had no idea they were about to face the fury of a legend that refused to die. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more Tales from the Stars. Thanks for watching. The Valkyrie's bridge hummed with an energy that had been absent for months, a symphony of awakening systems and returning purpose. Rebecca Torres moved between stations, watching as her crew brought 40 years of military engineering back to life. The fusion reactor's steady pulse resonated through the deck plates beneath her feet, a heartbeat that grew stronger with each passing minute. Oscar stood at the engineering station, his fingers dancing across controls that most modern officers wouldn't recognize. Reactor core at 70% and climbing. All primary systems responding within normal parameters. She's old, Captain, but she's still strong. Weapons status? Rebecca asked, turning to the tactical station where Lieutenant Thomas Yates had taken position. Thomas was young, barely 30, but he specifically requested transfer to the Valkyrie 3 years ago, after watching newer ships fail repeatedly during training exercises. He believed in redundancy and reliability over cutting-edge innovation. Main railguns charging now, Thomas reported. Missile tubes 1 through 16 are loaded and ready. Point defense cannons are online. We're not going to win any beauty contests, Captain, but we can still hurt anyone who gets in our way. Rebecca nodded, moving to her command chair. Through the main viewport, she could see the fleet assembling around them. 12 Phantom-class destroyers, sleek and deadly, their quantum shields shimmering like soap bubbles in the starlight. Each one cost more than the entire defense budget had been when the Valkyrie was constructed. Each one was currently blind to the approaching threat. Incoming transmission from the destroyer Tempest, announced communications. Officer Diana Wu. She was another veteran who had served on the Valkyrie years ago and had jumped at the chance to return. Captain Hernandez wants to coordinate tactical formation. Put him through, Rebecca said. The view screen shifted to show Captain Raymond Hernandez, a man in his 40s with sharp features and sharper eyes. Rebecca had trained him when he was a fresh ensign. Captain Torres, good to see the old girl flying again. Wish it were under better circumstances? Agreed. What's your sensor situation, Raymond? Hernandez's expression darkened. Still fragmentary at best. We're getting ghost returns, false positives, and system crashes. Whatever technology those alien ships are using, it's playing havoc with our quantum arrays. Without your targeting data, we'd be shooting blind. Then we'll be your eyes, Rebecca replied. Form up on our flanks. When we engage, I'll feed you firing solutions directly. Your ships have the speed and firepower. We'll make sure you're aiming at the right targets. Understood. Tempest out. As the connection closed, Oscar moved to stand beside Rebecca's chair. You realize we're going to be the primary target once shooting starts. Those aliens will figure out real fast that we're the one coordinating everything. I'm counting on it, Rebecca said quietly. The Phantoms are faster and hit harder, but they're fragile. One good hit and their shields collapse. The Valkyrie can take punishment. We draw their fire, keep them focused on us, while the destroyers tear them apart. That's assuming their weapons don't just cut through us like paper. Rebecca met his eyes. Then we'd better make sure we don't give them an easy target. The next 20 hours passed in a blur of preparation and planning. The alien fleet continued its advance, and now Earth's orbital telescopes could see them with the naked eye. They were unlike anything humanity had ever imagined. The ships seemed to shift and change as they moved, their hulls reflecting light in impossible ways, as if they existed slightly outside normal space. Civilian populations on Earth had been evacuated to underground shelters. Every military vessel in the solar system was converging on the Valkyrie's position, forming a defensive line between the invaders and humanity's home world. Rebecca stood in the wardroom, addressing the assembled officers via holographic link. Faces from a dozen ships looked back at her, some young and untested, others bearing the scars of previous conflicts. She saw fear in their eyes, but also determination. We don't know what we're facing, she began, her voice steady and clear. We don't know their capabilities, their tactics, or their true intentions. What we do know is that they've come to our home, threatened our people, and called us obsolete. They think our technology is primitive, that we're not worth the effort of negotiation. They're wrong. She paused, letting her words sink in. The Convergence has made a critical mistake. They've built their entire strategy around defeating our most advanced technology. They've learned to jam our quantum sensors, overwhelm our targeting computers, and presumably counter our quantum shields. But they never considered that we might still use older systems. They never imagined we'd kept ships like the Valkyrie in service. That arrogance is going to cost them. Thomas spoke up from the tactical station. Captain, what if their weapons are just as advanced as their sensor countermeasures? The Valkyrie's armor is thick, but we don't know what we're up against. You're right, we don't, Rebecca acknowledged. But consider this. They've clearly studied our modern fleet. They know exactly how to defeat Phantom-class destroyers and other contemporary vessels. They've prepared for that fight. What they haven't prepared for is facing technology they consider beneath notice. Our railguns use simple kinetic energy. Our missiles are basic chemical propulsion with conventional warheads. There's nothing exotic for them to counter, nothing quantum for them to jam. We're going to hit them with physics that hasn't changed since Newton, and they won't see it coming. On the screen, Captain Hernandez leaned forward. It's like that old story about the space pen. The Americans spent millions developing a pen that could write in zero gravity. The Russians used a pencil. A ripple of nervous laughter went through the assembled officers. Rebecca smiled. Exactly. Sometimes the simple solution is the best one. We're going to show the Convergence that obsolete doesn't mean ineffective. Now, let's go over the battle plan one more time. They spent the next 3 hours refining tactics and contingencies. The plan was straightforward because it had to be. The Valkyrie would position herself at the center of the defensive line, her broad-spectrum sensors providing targeting data to every ship in the fleet. The Phantom destroyers would form a loose sphere around her, using their superior speed to strike from multiple angles while the Valkyrie drew enemy fire. Missile frigates would hang back, launching waves of ordnance based on the Valkyrie's target designation. It wasn't elegant, but it gave them a fighting chance. As the meeting concluded and the other officers signed off, Oscar remained behind. He looked tired, lines of stress showing around his eyes. Rebecca, there's something I need to say. If this goes wrong, if we don't make it through this, I want you to know it's been an honor serving with you. Rebecca stood, moving to face her oldest friend. We're going to make it through this, Oscar. We've faced worse odds before. Have we? I've been going through the data on those alien ships. They're massive, Rebecca. Each one is 3 times the size of the Valkyrie. And there are 47 of them. Even if our plan works perfectly, the numbers aren't in our favor. Numbers never tell the whole story, Rebecca said. We have something they don't. We have people fighting for their home, for their families, for everything they love. That counts for more than tonnage or firepower. Those aliens are coming here thinking this will be easy, that we'll fold without a real fight. We're going to prove them wrong. Oscar managed a small smile. When did you become such an optimist? I'm not an optimist. I'm just too stubborn to accept defeat before the battle even starts. A chime from the bridge interrupted them. Diana's voice came over the intercom. Captain, we're picking up a change in the alien fleet's trajectory. They're accelerating. New ETA is 18 hours. Rebecca and Oscar exchanged glances and headed back to the bridge. The main display showed the updated projections, red lines arcing toward Earth's position. The Convergence had apparently decided to end this quickly. All stations, Battle Readiness Alpha, Rebecca ordered, settling into her command chair. Sound general quarters throughout the fleet. Send to all ships. This is it. Hold the line, trust your training, and remember what we're fighting for. Valkyrie actual out. Throughout the ship, klaxons began to sound. Crew members rushed to their stations, sealing pressure doors, charging weapons, preparing for the fight that would determine humanity's future. In the engine room, the fusion reactor burned brighter, feeding power to every system. In the armory, missile crews loaded the last of their ordnance. In sickbay, medical staff prepared for casualties they hoped would never come. Rebecca sat in her chair, hands resting calmly on the armrests, and watched the tactical display. The alien fleet drew closer with every passing second, an unstoppable tide of unknown technology and hostile intent. Around the Valkyrie, Earth's defense fleet gathered, modern marvels and ancient warriors side by side, united in purpose, if not in design. Beside her, Oscar quietly said, "Whatever happens in the next few hours, it's been a good life, Captain." Rebecca didn't take her eyes off the screen. "It's not over yet, old friend. Not by a long shot. Those aliens called us obsolete. Let's show them what obsolete can do when it refuses to die quietly." The countdown continued. 18 hours until contact. 18 hours until the Valkyrie and her crew would face their greatest test. 18 hours until an outdated relic would either prove its worth or become a footnote in humanity's final chapter. Rebecca Torres had no intention of becoming a footnote. The silence before battle carries a weight that no words can truly capture. Rebecca Torres had experienced it dozens of times throughout her career, but this moment felt different. This wasn't a skirmish over territory or a police action against pirates. This was the defense of humanity itself, and the burden of that responsibility settled over her like a physical presence. The alien fleet emerged from the darkness between stars, and for the first time, visual confirmation matched what the sensors had been telling them. The convergence ships were enormous, their hulls constructed from materials that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. They moved with an unsettling grace, as if gravity held no meaning for them. 47 vessels, each one a monument to technological superiority, bearing down on Earth's fragile defensive line. Rebecca's hands remained steady on her armrests as she studied the formation. The aliens had arranged themselves in a pattern that suggested both confidence and contempt. They weren't trying to outmaneuver the human fleet or employ complex tactics. They were simply advancing in a straight line, as if Earth's defenders were nothing more than an inconvenient obstacle to be brushed aside. "Range in 5 minutes," Thomas reported from Tactical, his voice tight with tension. "All weapons charged and ready. Targeting solutions are locked in and being transmitted to the fleet." "Captain Hernandez reports the Tempest is in position," Diana added. "All Phantom destroyers confirm they're receiving our sensor data clearly. They're ready to engage on your mark." Oscar moved to stand beside Rebecca's chair, his presence a comfort she would never admit aloud. They had been through so much together, survived impossible situations, watched friends die, and seen empires fall. If this was to be their final stand, she was grateful to face it with him at her side. "Open a channel to the alien fleet," Rebecca said quietly. "One last time." Diana worked her controls, and the communication array sent out a broad-spectrum hail. For several seconds, there was no response. Then the speakers crackled to life with that same cold, mechanical voice they had heard before. "Your persistence is noted and irrelevant. Surrender your planet, and your species will be granted swift integration into the convergence. Resist, and your extinction will be absolute. You have 10 seconds to comply." Rebecca leaned forward slightly, her voice carrying the weight of every human being counting on her success. "This is Captain Rebecca Torres of the RSS Valkyrie, speaking for the people of Earth. We don't surrender. We don't submit. And we sure as hell don't let bullies push us around. You want our world? Come and take it." She cut the connection and sat back. "All ships weapons free? Let them see what obsolete really means." The Valkyrie's main railgun spoke first, hurling solid slugs of depleted uranium at a fraction of light speed. The aliens had been expecting energy weapons, particle beams and plasma cannons like those mounted on modern human ships. They weren't prepared for simple kinetic projectiles moving at relativistic velocities. The first slugs hammered into the lead convergence vessel, and for a heartbeat, nothing seemed to happen. Then the alien ship's hull erupted in a blossom of debris and atmosphere. Whatever shielding they possessed was designed to deflect or absorb directed energy, not solid matter traveling at such tremendous speed. Around the Valkyrie, the Phantom destroyers opened fire with their antimatter torpedoes, following the targeting data streaming from the old warship's sensors. More alien vessels shuddered under the impacts, their formations breaking as they realized this fight wasn't going to be as simple as they'd anticipated. The convergence responded with fury. Beams of violet energy lanced across space, striking the human fleet with devastating precision. Rebecca watched as one of the Phantom destroyers took a direct hit. The quantum shields that were supposed to protect it lasted less than a second before collapsing. The ship came apart in a silent explosion that left her jaw clenched with anger and grief. "Evasive pattern gamma," she ordered. "Keep us moving. Don't give them a stationary target." The Valkyrie's thrusters fired, pushing the massive vessel into a rolling pattern that made targeting her more difficult. It wasn't graceful, and modern ships could have danced circles around her movements, but it was effective. Alien weapons fire splashed against her armored hull, scorching and melting the ablative plates, but not penetrating to the vital systems beneath. Thomas worked frantically at his station, designating targets and coordinating the fleet's response. "Captain, their formation is adapting. They're trying to surround us, cut off our escape routes." "We're not escaping," Rebecca said firmly. "This is where we hold. All ships, Titan formation. Use the Valkyrie as your anchor point. We're going to make them come through us to reach Earth." What followed was a chaos of violence and determination that would be studied for generations. The Valkyrie stood at the center of a maelstrom, her weapons never ceasing their mechanical thunder. Her ancient armor took hit after hit, glowing red-hot in places, but refusing to break. Around her, the Phantom destroyers darted and weaved, using her targeting data to strike with precision, while their own sensors remained uselessly jammed. Oscar called out damage reports as they came in. Hull breaches on decks 7 and 12. Damage control teams responding. Reactor output holding steady at 98%. "We're holding together, Captain, but we can't take this punishment forever." Rebecca knew he was right. The Valkyrie was tough, built to survive punishment that would destroy lesser vessels, but even she had limits. Already they had lost 3 more destroyers, and the alien fleet was still advancing. For every convergence ship they damaged or destroyed, 2 more pressed forward. Then something unexpected happened. One of the alien vessels, larger than the others, and positioned at the rear of their formation, began broadcasting on all frequencies. The translation came through garbled at first, then cleared as Diana adjusted the filters. "Impossible. Your technology is inferior. Your weapons are primitive. How are you still fighting? How are you hurting us?" For the first time, Rebecca heard something other than cold confidence in the alien voice. She heard confusion. She heard the first hints of fear. "Diana, open a channel. Let me talk to them." When the connection was established, Rebecca allowed herself a small, grim smile. "You came here thinking you understood us. You studied our modern fleet, learned all our latest technology, prepared counters for everything we could throw at you. But you forgot something important. Humanity didn't get where we are by always using the newest, shiniest tools. We got here by being adaptable, by using whatever works. You call us obsolete? We call it experience." Another alien ship exploded as a spread of missiles from the Valkyrie found their mark. The simple chemical explosives tore through hulls that had never been designed to withstand such crude weapons. "You want to know our secret?" Rebecca continued, her voice carrying steel beneath the words. "We never throw anything away. We keep the old alongside the new because we've learned that sometimes the old ways are better. You made yourselves invincible against our modern technology, but you never considered that we might still remember how our ancestors fought. That's your mistake. That's your weakness. And that's why you're going to lose." The battle raged for another 2 hours, a desperate struggle that pushed every ship and every crew member to their absolute limits. The Valkyrie took damage that would have spelled doom for any modern vessel. Her armor was scored and melted in a dozen places. Several of her weapon systems had failed. Fires burned in 3 different sections, despite the crew's best efforts. But her fusion reactor kept beating, her ancient systems kept functioning, and she kept fighting. Finally, impossibly, the tide began to turn. The Convergence fleet, which had seemed so utterly unstoppable just moments before, started to falter. Their perfectly coordinated assault, a symphony of destruction, was now breaking apart. Their ships began to pull back, breaking formation, retreating from an enemy they had dismissed as insignificant, as a relic of a bygone era. 23 alien vessels remained from the original 47, and they were fleeing, jumping to faster-than-light travel in a desperate, panicked escape. They were running from ghosts. On the bridge of the Valkyrie, a stunned silence fell as the last enemy ship vanished into the endless black. It was a silence so profound you could hear the collective heartbeat of the crew. Then Diana, the young communications officer, let out a whoop of pure, unadulterated joy. And just like that, the dam broke. Suddenly, everyone was cheering, shouting, embracing the person next to them, crying with a mixture of overwhelming relief and bone-deep exhaustion. They had done it. Against all odds, with obsolete technology and nothing more than stubborn, gritty human determination. They had saved Earth. Rebecca sat heavily in her command chair, suddenly feeling every single one of her years. The weight of the battle, of the lives lost, and the future saved, settled on her shoulders. They had won. That was the headline. But the price? The price had been devastatingly high. 8 Phantom destroyers, gone, vanished into cosmic dust. 3 frigates, ripped apart by alien weaponry. Thousands of crew members, brave men and women, were dead or wounded, and the Valkyrie herself. Her beloved ship was battered almost beyond recognition, scarred and broken, but they were still here. They were still breathing. They had won. A familiar presence appeared beside her. It was Oscar, her first officer, a medical patch now covering a nasty burn on his forehead that she hadn't even noticed him sustain in the chaos. He held out his hand, a silent offer of support. She took it, his grip firm and steady, and let him pull her to her feet. Her legs felt weak, like they might give out at any moment. "The fleet is hailing us," Diana reported from her station, tears streaming down her face, but this time they were tears of joy. "Everyone wants to talk to you, Captain. The whole fleet. You're a hero." Rebecca shook her head slowly, a weary but genuine smile touching her lips. "Not a hero, Diana. Just someone who remembered that old doesn't mean useless. That what worked yesterday might still work tomorrow. And that sometimes the best weapon is the one everyone else forgot about." She looked around her bridge, at the faces of her crew. She saw her own exhaustion mirrored in their eyes, but she also saw the same fierce, unyielding triumph. These people, these incredible people, had trusted her. They believed in her wild, improbable plan. They followed her into a battle that every bit of logic, every simulation, said they couldn't possibly win. And together, they had proven that obsolete is just another word for underestimated. The old guard had shown the new kids on the block how it was done, and Earth was safe. for now. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey. If you enjoyed this story, please hit that like button, subscribe for more adventures, and let me know your favorite part in the comments below. Until next time, stay curious.